In order to achieve greatness, one must first defeat its biggest enemy, humility. While society expects you to be humble, to fit in, not to think too highly of yourself, the truth is, nothing great was ever born from conformity. As long as you will be depriving your ego, you will be depriving yourself of everything you could become. In modern society, ambition is seen almost as the embodiment of evil. To stand out, to speak boldly about yourself, to go after something extraordinary, is often enough to be labeled selfish, narcissistic, or even dangerous by the big part of society. Those who dare to achieve great things are no longer admired by the masses. They are condemned. We are conditioned not to aspire but to blend in, not to lead but to conform. And when the ordinary person shows any sparks of greatness, they are quickly brought down by a ton of logic flooding in from every direction. Unfortunately, this way of thinking has sunk deep into modern spirituality. Most of those New Age teachers will tell you that ego is your enemy, the root of all your problems, that we are all one and therefore we are all the same, and that any belief in your own uniqueness is some kind of spiritual immaturity as it rejects the natural order of the universe. Many spiritual practices now revolve around minimizing the ego, progressively detaching from the sense of self and getting closer to the oneness with the universe. Some go even further with it, proclaiming the absolute ego death as the one and only path to spiritual awakening. The total erasure of the self, dissolving identity, letting go of your story, your ambition, your individuality, to blur the lines between you and everything else, to become no one, to want nothing, all in the name of peace. While this may sound very enlightening, on a purely practical level, this is the fastest way to living a dull, colorless life of mediocrity. Ego in itself is the invisible ceiling of what you can achieve. You can never outrun your ego. It is the absolute limit of how far you can go. This works on a purely subconscious level. If deep in your heart, you don't consider yourself as more driven, more capable, and ultimately superior to your competition, your actions will always reflect that preconception. When the time of a real test comes, you won't be able to rise above others, which will very often have nothing to do with the lack of talent or skill, but because you simply haven't built the internal foundations to support the weight of greatness. The harsh truth is, most of the unhappiest, poorest, and most desperate people in society are the ones who have the lowest self-esteem. No one who ever doubted himself ever achieved anything extraordinary, yet those who rose above mediocrity were often, simply put, narcissists who believed in their superiority so much so they eventually pulled it into being. Napoleon even commissioned a personal artist to paint him not as he was, but as he saw himself, a larger-than-life, almost divine figure destined to reshape the world. Before he ever conquered anything, Alexander the Great proclaimed himself the son of Zeus, a being above mere mortals, capable of feats beyond the imagination of ordinary men. Muhammad Ali created a whole rap album titled, "I Am the Greatest." Track after track he boasted of his supernatural capabilities and how he would outclass any other boxer. Even modern examples like Musk, Bezos, or Trump, they are all men with enormous egos. You may not like them for a number of reasons, which is perfectly fine, yet you cannot deny the impact they have on the world. Every breakthrough that humanity has ever achieved started as someone's ego, one person being crazy enough to believe that they themselves can change the world. Ego is not your enemy. It's your most powerful tool, the driving force behind all your actions. When you strip yourself of ego, you essentially strip yourself of the individuality, the belief in your uniqueness, and become just another NPC following the same dull script. Thus, if you aim for great things in your life, you have to develop an ego that is equal to them. The good news is, your ego is fully adjustable. How much you believe in your own capabilities is the byproduct of your mental conditioning. No one is born self-assured or insecure. Both are habits acquired by repeating particular thought patterns for a period of time long enough for them to sink deep into your subconscious. When you change the type of self-image you keep impressing upon your subconscious mind, you change the base identity it eventually accepts as truth. Everything begins with creating that identity. The person you consider yourself to be cannot be the record of an unwanted past, but rather the embodiment of your desired future. You have to consciously create the character that has all the traits, all the tools, and all the capabilities needed to build the reality you desire. Even if your current circumstances scream the contrary and reflect none of it, you simply have to act from the position of the character you've created and don't give a shit about the rest. Attention is your currency, yet you don't have to expand it. You actually have to cut it. Every great individual had the ability to narrow their vision solely to the path that led them to this greatness. The world is full of imperfections and everyone has their own flaws, but the key to so-called spiritual enlightenment is to realize that the only actual thing you have a real control over is your own state of mind. Instead of dividing your focus between all those things that are out there, but don't really serve you, you filter out the unnecessary information and lock in onto what actually moves you forward. This obviously doesn't mean you have to become satisfied with who you are. Always improve, reflect, and do better. But inside the mind of the great, there is no place for imperfections. Act to be better, but think as if you already were the best. Attention in itself, however, is not enough. The language of the subconscious mind are feelings. As long as you don't get emotionally involved with the self-concept you keep focusing on, you won't be able to fully impress it on the subconscious in a way you should. Your attention needs to always carry the emotional backing, and only then can that self-concept fully sink in. As you marinate your mind in that potential, ensuring that your self-concept, attention, and emotions are all aligned with your desired reality, you will eventually change the deeply rooted, limited selflessness and replace it with the pure ego, signaling to your subconscious mind that you are capable of creating your desired reality. Don't mistake it with the people who only pretend to be capable. Fake ego is definitely not the state you should ultimately aspire to. It's fragile and breaks under a real pressure. You start by pretending, but only when you know, deep in your heart, that you already are this kind of person and you no longer have to convince yourself, is the moment when you can finally convince the world.